She does.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. What's up, JP?
What's up, Mickey? How we doing?
We're good. Welcome to another episode of Midlife Muscle Strength Podcast, where we try to help you be better, not broken. And speaking of being better, today's episode is all about what do you do after you hit that PR you've been searching for, or after you climb that mountain you've been trying to climb and you're at the top looking down at the world below. What's the next move? And I don't know what your answer is going to be here because I feel like, every time I look, you're just smashing PRs and goals. So I don't know if you got a magic formula that you use, but this has been actually a hard one for me as an athlete, especially to manage in my own training life, etc. So, any initial thoughts off the bat before we kick it off here, sir?
Yeah, I think we deal with it differently. I've seen you hit a lot of goals. I'm every time I see someone else hit a goal, I'm like so happy for them and like want to celebrate them. And it's easy. It's easy for a coach. Like I love hearing clients, tell me their goals. And then for me personally, like I just step over them. Like I don't even acknowledge them, which is like I think I don't know, not a good way to deal with. You hit a goal. We'll I wrote down some steps that you should be taking, but my own personal experience, I don't acknowledge it, and I just think if I say I wanted 20 more pounds of my back squat or whatever exercise you choose, and you do a training cycle and you get there, I thought I should have got shot for 40 more pounds.
Never satisfied.
Never satisfied. So like it was just like constant pushing and never celebrating or never stepping back and like analyzing it. It was always just like too weak, should have done more, could have done more. It was never like, it was always like should have, could have done better. And I always hit my goals, but it was more like upsetness after in a weird way of misery than it was to actually enjoy it.
So is one of your recommendations to people is basking in a little bit, celebrate it and enjoy it a little bit.
Celebrate the achievement, and I think I do that for other people, and I praise other people when they hit their goals. But I think for me, it's just like maybe it was the way I brought up or family or whatever it was, but I was just like not enough, can do more, So, but I think one of the things I wrote down was to celebrate. And I think that's important to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think part of that might be just the lack of patience too. It's almost like, especially in society, it's like, all right, did that, check the box, on to the next thing before, like, hey, step back, soak it up. You just worked really hard to do something or to get to this certain point or hit a certain goal, savor it. I think if you do that and you have that gratitude and you have that sense of accomplishment and you allow yourself to enjoy it, I think you'll feel better about it. Because like you said, you're like, I wasn't even like, I was like, I could have done more, could have done better, which is okay to want to always be better. But I think savor it, bask in it, soak it up, because they don't come often. A lot of times it takes a long time. It takes a lot of work to get to goals, to get to PRs, etc. So, enjoy it when it's there.
Yeah. And I think another piece to that is like, because I didn't enjoy it, it was tough to like keep going. Like, you did that and then it's like, and then you're like, I should have got 40. And then you it takes so long to get to the next, level, next goal. It became like a very unenjoyable process, rather than like, I think, now I sit back and enjoy life a little bit more than I think in the moment. I thought like that hardened mentality was what I was missing. So, but yeah, I think, being kind to yourself and I think embracing those little wins, and actually sit there and be like, hey, I deserve this. I worked hard for this.
Yeah. Give yourself some
I think
grace.
Instead of looking back Yeah, instead of looking back and reflecting, I think I definitely like kept looking forward and kept pushing forward. Um, which I think there's a time for it, but like one of the other things I had it down was like reflect on the process, like
Hmm.
mentally and physically. Like, what did you do in that program to get you to where you are, and then mentally, like, reflect on the emotions that you had during it. Because I think working out is, physically and mentally, it's a full package. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that actually ties into the first thing that I thought of. Like, if you worked really hard towards something, whether it's in your career training, I mean, we're talking about fitness stuff, but if you hit that goal or you hit that PR that you've been working really hard for and training really hard for and being consistent and dedicating time, energy to, the first thing I wrote down in my little notes is step back and stop. Like, don't, because a lot of times what happens is I work with athletes and it's so cool to see them hit PRs and stuff, but then legitimately they'll send me a video of their back squat PR, and then their next thing is, okay, like, what do we do next? It's like, well, why don't we just chill for a minute?
yeah,
like like this is pretty cool.
yeah,
And like, you just hit a PR and you know how long and how hard it was to get there. It's going to take that again to get better again. So let's just, step back and relax and actually maybe ratchet everything back a little bit for at least a week or two. Like, I always, that's after PRs and after like a big competition, like someone's worked really hard to do a triathlon. I've worked with a few athletes that did that, and they're chomping at the bit after the triathlon to go get ready for the next one. We're like, why don't we take like 2 weeks and not even say the word triathlon for a little bit, So the first thing I wrote down is just step back and stop, and
yeah,
just, like you said, reflect, relax. Everything can sort of just go back to homeostasis a little bit so that you can see what you want to do next before you start making that plan. Because if you rush into the next thing, you're not going to have a well thought out plan. You're not going to really be mentally or physically ready, even if in that moment you feel like you might be, because it took so much physical and mental capital to get there that you got to recharge the batteries before you start making that next plan.
yeah. And I think like that's perfectly describes what I never did. I
Hmm.
think I was trying to ride the wave of the, let's keep this going. And I think, as an athlete, you're always pushing for that. But I think as a coach, you got to slow people down. And like, I wish I had a coach who slowed me down a little more. It was like, hey, let's, you know, take a week or two off and embrace it, because that recharges your batteries too. Like you said, it's a mental, like when you're going towards a goal, it's mentally, physically exhausting. So then when you get there, it's like you feel like you don't want to lose that momentum that you've built as an athlete, but it's like you need that time.
Hmm.
So taking that, like I think that I could have had a lot longer career, or even more successful than I had if I took those times to like slow down and you know mentally and physically relax.
Yeah, and on a personal note, for me, I actually just thought of this. I wasn't even like thinking about this before, but it just came to me after the 2016 regionals that we had, where we did really well. We came up, I think we came in seventh, right? And
Yeah,
we were only like 2 slots away from going to the games, which was like the ultimate goal, right? That was what we were trying to achieve. I remember coming off of that high, being like, "Wow, we were really close. Maybe next year we could do it if we, get back at it." And within like a week or two, I was training really hard again, and that's I didn't give myself time. I just like went from regionals, went home, and just started like training like a wild person again. And that's when I got my worst injury I've ever had. I absolutely destroyed my groin, and it was like a year and a half before I was right again, because I was not ready. I was physically and mentally drained, but I, for whatever reason, thought I needed to go right from that high of being one of the best teams literally like in the world to training again without just being like, wow, that was awesome, and just sit back and relaxing a little bit. And I got hurt just like that. My body just wasn't ready.
yeah. I think like if you visualize a chart and it's not a constant upswing, it like just with weight loss, the same thing with weight loss. Like you'll go up in weight, down in weight, up in weight, but it's trending. If you could draw a line through that, it is trending down.
Hmm.
But I think people just think it should be constantly down,
Like a cliff.
like a cliff, like straight down. And it's same with training. Like you can't be pinning, your training to the ceiling all year, and it just constantly keeps going up. Like there will be down. You need the downtime. And I wish I knew that as an athlete. I know that as a coach now, but I don't think one of the things I definitely learned and kept relearning and keep teaching myself. I honestly don't think in the moment or even as an athlete, I even understood it. It was like after the fact
Yeah.
that like, I'm like, wow, this, you should take time off and learn more. And the more I learned about recovery, it's like, you need that time off to, consistently be moving,
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think like that's going to be the central theme in our conversation is probably like taking the time and like relaxing, reflecting, etc. But I think within that time, there's certain things you probably want to think about and do. So that's kind of where my head went at, because when I was thinking about this, making my list of notes, I was like, it's kind of all the same thing, but within that same like stop, reflect, assess, there's different things I think you should look at and think about. Because I don't really think there's a lot you should like do. Like I don't think
Right.
there should be a lot of doing, in my opinion. I think it should be you should still be training or working out, but it should be very chill and low key. Right? It's like a big deload for at least a week or two, where you're moving and maintaining health, but you're not striving for anything better than what you just did, right?
Yeah.
Like I just hit my first 400-pound back squat. For the next 2 weeks, I probably won't squat more than 275. Like that's kind of where you want to live and mentally be and be okay with it. Because I think a lot of times people hit that PR and then they're all of a sudden like, ooh, new training percentages, and then they're just hammering new weights, and that's just a recipe for disaster, because your body needs really a lot of time to now adapt to this new stimulus and this new normal, because it's like, well, I've never done 400-pound squat before. I now need to adapt to this as at like physically and psychologically to what the new percentages for your training and all that stuff is going to be.
Yeah, one of my points was like maintain consistency. So like maintain that strength. You don't want to just be a one hit wonder, hit your goal, and then you're never doing that movement again. So like, just the consistency of it, not pushing the numbers, not going crazy with it, but like, okay, cool. Like, let me just maintain, you know, squat 275 with good form and, grease the grooves a little bit. And then, you can always, after that time frame's over, you can kind of push yourself a little bit more. But I think when you hit a goal, it's good to maintain where you're at rather than just like trying to keep pushing past it.
It's so true. Did you ever have the fear? I always had the fear of like, okay, I'm gonna lose it if I don't use it now. Like, oh, I got this new superpower,
Yeah.
so I gotta make sure I make sure I hit that all the time now. Otherwise, it's gonna just disappear. Which is probably the furthest thing from the truth, but that's just the mental place you go.
100%. Yeah. I think you always want to do it the next day. You're like, I just PR'd my squat. I want to squat again, and you may never, I think sometimes you never hit those numbers again, or it's going to be another 2 months till you hit those numbers again. But I think you always want to make it like consistent or like, and I think we've talked about this before, but it's like sometimes instead of looking at my top number, I try to look at my bottom number. Like, what's the minimum amount I can always lift?
Mm-hmm.
And like, as long as that number was going up, I knew my top numbers were going up, rather than like you're pushing your top numbers up, like those are going to stop it at some point. But if, say, you're at a 400-pound squat, like, how many can you always be squatting 300 pounds? And then you can squat 315 consistently, like as you're like, no matter how tired you are, kind of number. I think you kind of knew your top number was going up. So it's not always what the max is. It's like, hey, what's my floor? What can I keep building up that way?
I love that. Because you don't live there. You're not going into the gym hitting a PR every day, like hitting that PR every day, right? Just because you hit it that one time, like you said, it could be a long time before you ever do that again, if ever, And so be more content and okay with like, okay, I just hit 400-pound back squat. So now 300 pounds is, that's my 75%. Can I always hit that and hit it well and consistently? And then can I move that number up to 315 that I'm always hitting? Because that's where you're really going to live. You're not going to live in the 400-pound range, right?
No.
That just doesn't happen.
No, definitely.
The other thing that I was, thinking about was the sort of the buyer's remorse. So now I got this thing, and I don't know if I want to call it buyer's remorse, but I hit this PR, I hit this number I've been chasing, but did I ignore other parts of my fitness, or did other parts of my training suffer because I was kind of so focused on this one thing that I was trying to do? Because if you want to hit a PR or hit like an all time or reach a certain goal, sometimes you might have to shelve other stuff or put it on the back burner. And I don't want to say ignore it, but not dedicate as much time or attention to it as you might want to, or maybe you should. So I don't know if that's something that you've ever run into yourself, but I know for me, training CrossFit athletes, a lot of times if they're looking to hit new strength numbers, it's going to come at a cost to some of the conditioning, and vice versa if they're aiming at certain things. I know we're trying to raise the levels on all things, especially when it comes to CrossFitters, but it's not always possible to be like, all right, I want my 2K road time to be sub 7, and I want that 500-pound deadlift. Depending on the athlete, it's sometimes one's got to suffer a little bit for the other to go up.
Right. Yeah, I think I couldn't even do this myself. It's easy to see as a coach, but as an athlete, like I was always like, wow, his legs are really strong. And like I could have like at least my last 2-3 seasons of CrossFit training, like not done legs and still been very strong. But like I think it was like an ego thing for me. I should have just been doing more shoulders and upper body. And I neglected that. Like I could never just like, sacrifice the time I would put into deadlifting and squatting and do shoulder press and rows and pull-ups, dips. So like I ran into that I never skewed my program enough to bring up my biggest weakness. I kind of like tried to bring everything up together, which didn't work out for me as efficiently. But I wish, again, I wish I had a coach kind of help me like, hey, you're fine here. You're playing a strength here. Like, let's shelve that. Let's focus on, bigger weaknesses, your upper body, strength and endurance. So I personally didn't even get to that point. I couldn't get past the barrier. But I think seeing something from the outside and be like, hey, you're fine here. Like if someone told me you're fine, you don't need to get any stronger here. Like that would have been like, oh yeah, you're right. Like just to hear those words sometimes. Yeah. Like, you're okay here. Like let's focus. Let's take the 45 minutes that you would spend strengthening your legs up and let's put 45 more minutes on handstand holds or whatever that other movement is that I need to like get my upper body to the shoulders to the level that, they deserve. But yeah, that's a great point. Like reevaluating your training was like one of my points. It's like, hey, should I continue on this path? Is this, just because it worked once doesn't mean it should work again. Or if it does work again, what else are you missing out on?
Yeah. Like at what cost was this, the cost, benefit ratio, you look at it.
I think sometimes as an athlete, if you're like, oh, I'm improving, I means I'm doing better. Like, but it's like, you're kind of climbing the wrong ladder.
Yeah.
It's like if your sport is need multi-facets, like improving this one thing isn't necessarily helping you out. It doesn't translate. Like in CrossFit, getting a bigger squat helps, but doesn't translate to everything else. So it's like, well, I don't think that's really worth your time.
That's exactly when we were kind of done and I was still dabbling in the CrossFit realm. I had this thing where like, I want to back squat. I've never been super strong, right? Just raw strength. So I wanted to be able to hit 405 back squat and a 500-pound deadlift. That was like my thing. And I'd never done either one. So I just sort of like dedicated probably like 4 months and just pushed that. And I hit those two numbers. I hit the deadlift, I hit the back squat, but I completely ignored any type of like conditioning or really like maintenance of other facets of my fitness. Like I didn't really do any sprinting or jumping. I was just like, I want to just be strong. And I remember hitting those two numbers and immediately being like, man, I don't even feel that fit though. Like I hit the deadlift, I hit the squat and I was like, wow, what was that all for? Like I'm like, feel like a slug. Like I can't run or breathe or anything. I can't jump or sprint. It almost felt wasted. I was like, I have this strength now. And like, okay, I guess I can shift. But I realized the cost really probably wasn't worth the benefit because I've never hit those numbers again and I don't really want to. So it was sort of like this random thing I did. Cool to check that box. But in the reassessment phase, I was like, really not worth it. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's sobering sometimes when you reach goals. You get to the top of the mountain, you look around, you're like, I don't really want to be here. You're like,
It's cold up here.
yeah, like this isn't really, I want to be over there. Like that's a different goal. Like let me be more, multifaceted, Um,
So someone hits a goal. You just mentioned something that I think I didn't really think about this before, but do you think it's good to just goal chase? Like if you hit a goal, uh, and you've taken the time, like we just mentioned, like you've reassessed, you step back, you're not pushing anything, but that period's over. Is it good to just like chase a different goal that's totally random, or do you think there should be some sort of path, or what's your feeling on like goals? Because I kind of have mixed emotions on this one, but I'm going to let you say something first, and then I'll.
we have done some podcasts on goal setting, which I
Hmm.
think is important.
And if you haven't heard that one, go back
go
and listen
back.
because it's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, and then share it with someone, please. I think a lot of times I hear goals from clients that aren't from them; they just see it somewhere. Like
Yeah.
like they're just like, oh, I saw this on social media. I want to do this, and I think there has to be like some purpose and I think you should put more thought into your goals and be like, hey, where's this going to get me? Is this going to,
I love
from
that.
there, what's the next goal going to be? Almost like goal stack a little bit. I think you have to have a plan. You have to
Hmm.
have like a runway that you're like, okay, if I get here, then this, and then this. I again, I goal chased. I think I jumped from one to the other with really no rhyme or reason. It was just like kind of ego lifting a little bit. Definitely didn't help me in my athletic pursuit of like, hey, I want to be good at this sport. It was just like, let me do this, and if I'm doing this and this and this, like all these positive things can't add up to negative, but they did. Like just like we talked about, I was the strongest one on my lacrosse team and wasn't very good at lacrosse. Like, or could have, or all that time I spent, like I should have been putting more time into the skill of the sport or the agility part of it. And I was just like, well, if I'm stronger, I'm going to be better.
Hmm.
And I got significantly worse. So
Yeah. Yeah, we've heard that story a few times, which
yeah,
it it's really honestly a great like cautionary tale to people because I think it is a huge pitfall, by the way.
yeah.
And again, that's in other episodes. So share, like, comment, go listen to those episodes. I'm right with you on the goal thing. I see so many people chasing random goals that I don't think they even care that much about, but they think they should care about it because they see other people on social media doing these things. Like all of a sudden, everyone's a triathlete, everyone's an endurance athlete that I know. It's like, when did this be? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think these people enjoy or even like doing the sport. They're just like, oh, I'm seeing all these hybrid athletes that are doing like full on half Ironmans and full Ironmans, having never been endurance athlete their whole life. Again, I'm not saying don't be a fit person or don't chase fitness as a like a way of life, because as you know, like we're both like it's our life. It's a huge pillar in our life. But I think make sure your goal really means something to you intrinsically, not something that you think you should be doing or that you see other people doing. And make sure that it serves a purpose for you in your life outside of the gym, outside of training. Because I think just chasing random goals like that, it's you're gonna feel unfulfilled at the end. It's like, okay, like you did a half Ironman. That's amazing. Is that something you really always wanted to do? Or is it just something that like tickled your fancy and now you got to move on to the next thing? Like, yeah, I just don't see sometimes the purpose in some of these goals. And I'm never going to tell a client like, hey, don't do that. But sometimes I'm like, why? Like, why do you want to do this?
Yeah,
You
I
just
love.
you just you just had a different goal like 2 months ago, and now it's on to this next thing.
Yeah, I love that people are going a little off topic, but like I love that the hybrid athletes or triathletes, like I think people just like that they're leaner. But it's funny if you just did regular lifting and ate better, you could look great too.
Yeah.
And I think like me and you both have shared, like we started out running, like we were very thin and like I thought if
Yep.
I could run like a 5 minute mile, I would look like that was my goal under a 5 minute mile. And I did it. And I'm like, I don't even like the way I look. Like I feel terrible. Like this isn't what I want, but like, I just thought by running, you'd get the body you wanted,
Hmm.
and it's like, I think, their goals should be different. Like it shouldn't be, hey, I want to do a triathlon. It's like you want to look better. Like focus on your diet.
Mm-hmm.
Like not necessarily do more workouts, or like a triathlon may great. It might be rewarding, or someone else did it, but it's like you probably just want to look like a triathlete, like her, someone who's leaner.
Yeah, and I think it kind of ties into the thing we mentioned, a few minutes ago about if you lean really super heavy into those types of things, like what are you not doing that you probably should be doing for your overall fitness, right? Because a lot of the times the strength stuff is ignored, like it's left on the back burner when it probably should be more of a focus. Just if you're talking long term health and wellness, because you want to be faster, leaner, and obviously having a ton of muscle mass doesn't help that, but it also doesn't help to have no muscle to support your joints and all that stuff. So that's one of the things that happens a lot is I'll have endurance athletes come to me looking for like a hybrid type training and because they need it, but it's after they've sort of suffered the consequences of not doing that and they've just been running or biking or swimming or all of the
Right.
above and doing no strength work, and then all of a sudden they realize there's this massive gap in their training and they've got to fill that in because they're feeling pretty cruddy overall.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like those just need, you know, different goal, or be aware of where your goals bring you. And then I think like also goal like timelines are important. I think it's like, I shared a quote with you. It's like anyone can be strong in a year. Like
Mm-hmm.
1 year you can be freakishly strong, but like can you be strong for 20 years? A
Yeah.
person like that's true. Like so, like I think even some goals, like even for me, like I made them too short. Like sometimes you want long goals, and I think we are in the phase of like having longer goals. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like I want to squat 40 pounds next week. It's like, hey, I want to. If that's your goal, I don't know if that's a very good goal. We're just using an example, but it's like, hey, that might take me 2 more years to get to,
Mm-hmm.
And if that's like something you want to strive for, like stretch it out a little bit. I think people are like this instant goal setting. It's like you want it done tomorrow. It's like it might take a year or two to get there, depending where you're at.
Yeah.
So it's like stretch them out. Like you have a lot of time, and fitness should be. We talked about like maintaining fitness. It's like be consistent with it. It's like stretch these goals out. It doesn't have to be in I think everyone's like 6 months. I want it done.
Yeah, and topic of the episode, like we're talking about, like what do you do when you get to a goal? Like a lot of clients I work with, they have weight loss goals, right? And this is such a, in my opinion, like a really important one in the health and wellness and fitness world. Is like when you get to your goal weight, like what do you do? Because like there's
Yeah, is it
like
over?
you're now at the weight you've been aiming for like a really long time. Okay, awesome. All right. Like we don't want to lose any more weight. That wouldn't be safe or sustainable or healthy. But like what's your next move? Because is the weight that was your goal, is it really sustainable for you? And are you going to do what's needed to be consistent and stay at that weight? Or is it going to become like a yo-yo situation, which you really don't want? There's so many health reasons why you don't want to be like, hit my goal weight. Okay, now I'm going to Cabo. And then you come back and you've gained like 15 pounds from a vacation and kind of fallen off the wagon. So that's a really important one, I think, because that comes up a lot. Is hit a goal weight that you want to get to, and then the next plan is as important as the previous one. Because if you don't have one, you're going to put yourself in a scenario where you're going to be probably gaining weight again, and then having to go through that process again. And we know how hard that is, especially for a lot of people to lose weight consistently. So. What's your next plan is as important as what the previous plan was.
Yeah, and I think like sometimes like my goals now are just maintain. Like, okay, I want to maintain where I'm at, And I think
Mm-hmm.
that when you get to your goal weight, people think they can eat whatever they want. They're like, oh, when I get to 190, I'll eat whatever I want. And it's like you're gonna end up where you just were. It's like get to your goal weight and then maintain it for a year. Like that would teach you more, or 6 months. And I think people can't really see that. They're like, I just want to get to my goal weight, but it's like there should be a maintenance after that. And I think that's that's where yo-yoing comes from, up and down.
It's I always tell people because this has happened a few times with clients I work with, and they're awesome people, and they work super hard. I'm like, I actually tell them, I'm like, we're going to savor this moment and enjoy it. But I hate to say it this way, but this actually isn't the end. This is the beginning. Like, this is actually where like the hard part starts now. Like where it's like, okay, this is who you want to be. This is where you want to be. Now you got to do it forever. Right. And that sounds daunting and overwhelming, but it's the truth. It's like, that's what's going to happen if you want to be at that goal weight and stay at that place.
Yeah. I think that's speaks volumes. I don't think I yo-yoed for a long time. Like I've probably been the most consistent, like, last couple of years, just with my weight.
Because I've been here every week telling you to get it together. When we go off when we go off camera, I start to yell at you. I start yelling at you like the biggest loser.
That's right.
Put down the gluten-free bread, JP.
And I think there's something to say for if you don't reach your goal. Like, say you have a timeline and you don't get there. I think that's important. Like, how do you manage setbacks with your goal?
So important.
I think it's tough. I think a lot of people don't get to the goal, whether it's a certain date or a month or, and they throw in the towel. They're like, okay, I'm never going to get there. Where it's like, okay, let's reevaluate. What's the training look like? Where are we going wrong here? What habits do we need to change? I think that's like just as important as like, obviously a goal you always think about achieving, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're not going to get there, or you don't get there in the time frame that you want. It's like, how do you reevaluate? How do you, okay, what do we have to change, or what's some habits we have to adjust to get there?
I love that. That's so important. I think for people to understand is you could have the best plan, the most perfect cycle laid out to hit a certain number or to do a certain thing you had wanted to do, and it just might not happen. And there's a million factors that go into it. So sometimes you just might not know the answer. Like you might do everything right, and then like the morning or day of competition or whatever, you go in and you just come up short, and there's just too many factors to even count as to why that could be. And it is good to go back and reassess. But I think having the mental fortitude and psychologically being able to handle not hitting the goal and then moving forward and making a plan is really important too, because I've run into that a ton with CrossFit athletes who have worked their tails off and done everything right. Diets, not, in nutrition's in, sleep, recovery, training, and comes up on game day and something happens. You just don't do what you think you should do, and the world is ending in their eyes, right? But it's, sometimes things are out of your control and your body just doesn't cooperate for whatever reason. You just got to stop for a second and, let it simmer and figure out your next steps, because that's just the way the world works sometimes.
Yeah, I've shown up to competitions, and it's crazy that you can do 6 months of great training and then like you can mess it up the last 2 weeks. Like just not taper right or not get into it right, and like you get to the competition, you're like, stressed out about it, or something happened in your life, and you get there and you're like, just put up a big goose egg, and you're like, what did I just do? And it's like, that's the time you have to sit back, reflect, and be like, okay, I can do this better, and this is what I'm going to do. Take some time off and you'll get back to it. But like, yeah, those are tough to get through.
Have you ever had that? I mean, you just said you did, but do you remember any specific times? Because I have one in my head that I remember, where there was do you remember the Milford competition that they used to have? And we did it down at like Foxwoods one year.
Yes.
We were in the different teams.
Yeah.
And we knew the workouts going in. This is a CrossFit competition. We did this almost 10 years ago now. Probably like going on exactly 10 years. We're old, man. We're artifacts.
We did that team together, right?
Yeah, I think it was me, you, Tori, and Shannon.
Yeah.
And there was one of the workouts was like a clean, like within a workout maybe, or on a timer. And I had hit a certain number in training a bunch of times. I think I hit like 300, which for me was like a good number. I hit it like a bunch of times. I was like, oh, I got this in the bag. Got there on game day. Could not. I think I hit like 285 or something like that, which like, people power clean that. But for me, I was just like so devastated that I was under the number that I wanted. And I didn't have an answer for it. Like I was training basically the same as everybody else. It was just didn't happen that day. Yeah. I don't know why. And I remember just being so dejected about it. And it messed me up like the rest of the competition. Like mentally, I was just out of it.
I had one at East Coast Classic. And the first event was like it was like rope climb, running, and something else. I forget what it was, maybe power cleans. And I just remember being on the line, like gassed before the event. Like I don't even know what was wrong with me. Maybe I was getting sick, and I came in dead last.
Oh,
Like my rope climbs were terrible. Like I was
you were
so
the
pumped.
guy.
I was so pumped up for the competition, and I'm gonna kill this, and then just got wiped. And I was like I don't know. It was like a car race, and like everyone took off, and I was like still like I was going reverse. I was like, what is happening?
I'm running in sand.
Yeah, I'm like, this is awful. It
Yep.
just like blew me away. I was like, it took me a couple weeks to recover from that one.
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
just
jeez.
it happens, man. It's sometimes you just lay the goose egg. You can't. I mean, you see it in professional sports all the time. Like these are literally the most elite athletes on earth, and you see, a pitcher get nuked in a baseball game, or a basketball player, shoots 1 for 20. And they just, stuff like that happens to people. It doesn't matter who you are. So,
And
yeah.
I think it could happen too. Like it's happened to me in the opens where like you see someone do the workout and you're like, I really like that strategy, and then you do it, and it's like it's not a strategy that fits you or like a rep scheme that fits you.
Yeah.
And like I think those are the worst because you're physically in great shape, but like you just follow the wrong reps, like the
Hmm.
wrong advice.
Who you are as an athlete. Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't like you don't trust in yourself, or you don't like, hey, this would be better for me than this option. And I've done that before, and it's like it's not physical; it's like more mental. It's like I think it's harder to take that pill of like, wow, I messed up my strategy, not just my like working out part.
Yeah, and it's like kind of a perfect analogy for, you and I could both make a plan to hit a PR on something, right? We could both be like, all right, we're both chasing whatever, 500-pound deadlift, and pretend like, we aren't there right now because we haven't been doing it in a while. If we did the same training plan, you or I could get there first, depending on what the training plan is, because of our physical differences and the way that we adapt to the stimulus that we put our bodies in. So, and that's another good thing after you hit a PR, to like assess and be like, all right, like this plan worked for me. Why did it work for me? Not just look at the things that went badly or like what you neglected, but like what did work for me. Because, like you said, that's why I actually think like cookie cutter programs don't work very well,
Hmm.
and why like getting a coach like you or I or a programmer, because you need what works for you. Like I tried Smolov 20 rep back squat program, all those like things, because I was always chasing squat numbers, and I never gained like much of anything, and they just wrecked me. And meanwhile, I see people like, I did the 20 rep squat program, and my back squat went up 60 pounds, and I'm like, oh my god, this is it, this is the mecca, I'm gonna do it. And then I got nothing. I was like, what? Like, why did this not work for me?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. If you hit a goal, or if you missed a goal, the reassessment is just like so critical, and making sure that you're doing what's working for you.
Yeah, and I think a coach just gets to see it. Like I'm saying from my own, athletic experience, like I couldn't see through the weeds enough. Like I needed someone on my shoulder to like, hey, don't focus on this, or take some time off. And I think just hearing those words, and I was a very hard worker, and I would do whatever was on the whiteboard. But I think I need someone like a coach to slow me down, not push me harder. So yeah, I think like the program matters. I don't think a cookie cutter program is for anyone. Like even if you have a template as a coach, like you should be changing it for each athlete.
Yes.
You see some coaches just put out the same program for everyone. I think that's what differentiates us is like we take into more than just like the athlete. It might be their mentality, might be the equipment they have, might be there's so many things, factors that you have. And I think that's like what specific program is. And then you make changes. Like I know you make weekly changes, I make weekly changes. This is working, this isn't, this is feels great this week. Like my hip hurts this week. Okay, let's change it. So
Hmm.
I think working with one of us is a great option to reach your goals. So if you do have goals, reach out to me or Mickey, and we'd love to help you.
For sure. Where can they find you, JP, if they want to make those goals?
JP Wiz on Instagram.
You can find me at the Dabog Chronicles on Instagram. I think that's going to wrap it up for our PRs. What do you do next episode? And we will talk to you folks next time. Thanks for listening.